Hey guys, welcome along to another Destiny 2 video. In this one I'll be looking at the article which came out in the Edge magazine yesterday and just summarising all the interesting stuff for you, as it's got a bunch of new information buried within it. So the first thing is that some endgame activities will lock your loadout, preventing any changes to your subclass or weapons during the activity, so you need to have a plan before you load into these missions. Along that same vein, the weekly Nightfall will have a time limit on it, which will vary depending on which strike it is. Luke Smith gives an example of 13 minutes in the interview, which is really quite short if you think about it. I mean, the strike in the beta took about 15-20 minutes to complete. But having said that, it does make sense. They sort of implemented that change with the Age of Triumph when they gave us the 30-minute timers for the Nightfalls. So it looks like these are going to be a little bit more difficult to complete, probably going back to orbit a few times to change your loadout to see if something else will work if what you're doing isn't. Let me read you what Luke Smith said here. We're looking at difficulty as a way to drive conversation. Do you have the right tools? Are you looking into your backpack to see what you have? You should totally have favourites. If you have a favourite hand cannon, then awesome, great, you should use it. But I also think there should be times where you're like, this is not the right tool for this job. So you look at your entire golf bag and say, okay, what do I have? The interview then goes on to say that energy weapons didn't behave in the beta as they will in the final build against enemies with elemental shields, as when the shield is depleted in the final build it will explode and nuke any enemies that are nearby. Now I know that sounds quite extreme, but it does add up when you think about how Bungie made such a big deal of energy weapons and how you've really got to plan how you're going to play with the locked loadouts. Following that, they go on to talk about the Warlock subclass Dawnblade and the perk which speeds up the grenade recharge rate while getting airborne kills. They also state that they got an exotic chest piece very early on in the game, whilst their character's level was still in single figures in fact, which let them hover in place while aiming down the sights of a weapon in the air. There's one exotic Warlock chest piece that springs to mind when I've heard that, and that's the one we've seen so much of with the wings on the back, which personally I think is really ugly. And as I said in a previous video, I am happy to be proven wrong if it looks good in the game, but on pictures I'm not convinced. Following that, there's also a bit where Mark Noseworthy talks about why we shouldn't expect 60 FPS anytime soon on consoles, stating that they could do it with Destiny 2, but it would have a negative impact on the game. Let me read you the quote here. It's about the simulation of the Destiny world. He says, 30 AI at once, large open spaces, 6 players, sometimes with vehicles and dropships coming in. That's where we're using the CPU. Could we make a Destiny game that ran at 60 FPS? Yes, but the space would be smaller, it would be less cooperative, and there'd be fewer monsters to shoot. That's not the game we want to make. First and foremost, we're trying to make an incredible action game. We don't feel we've been held back by the choices we've made about the world simulation versus frame rate. In fact, we think we're offering a player experience you can't have elsewhere because of the choices we're making. But if frame rate is something that's really important to you, there is a platform now where you can spend as much money as you want to go as fast as you want. On PC, in addition to offering 4K visuals, Destiny 2's frame rate will be uncapped. Next, the article goes on to say that grenades are a lot more powerful in Destiny 2, not just to be used for clearing low-level adds, but used on a boss you can expect it to do a huge chunk of damage, which is really encouraging to hear after seeing how ineffective they were in PvE during the beta. But as we know, that beta build was actually months old when we got our hands on it. The article next goes on to mention the hunter side of the community being disappointed with what they've seen for their class within Destiny 2. Let me read you this quote here. Online, the Destiny community has focused on the apparent weaknesses. Players of the Hunter class are especially miserable, believing their character presented to them in the beta to be a shadow of its former self, lacking utility and a clear role within the team. Smith points out that one subclass path lets hunters create up to 8 super orbs for their allies using their golden gun, enough when picked up to fill every member's entire super bar from scratch. But there's more. Smith has asked us not to spoil it, and for once we've agreed. Suffice it to say that everything is going to be fine. Edge then go on to say that there is lots more that they are unable to talk about, and one day to ask them about the Magician, which is maybe some sort of exotic weapon or armor. Following that, they tell us about the first mission beyond the tower destruction and what to expect at the farm. This bit I think is really interesting. Let me read this to you. And so, once the Red Legion has destroyed the tower, you awake in the European Dead Zone, the largest area Bungie has ever built, with no weapons or powers, and walk slowly with a stagger. You must, if only for a while, play a very different game. A fallen tree provides an essential bridge across a gap that normally you'd sail over without a second thought. A new mantle animation, which we'd previously thought had been solely designed to ensure you no longer miss a ledge that's 30 feet off the ground during a firefight, proves vital for getting over a low wall. And along a mountain trail, as we follow a tight path towards our objective, we experience something we've never known in Destiny, a fear of heights. It doesn't last long, of course. Soon after, you happen across a farm. In time, this will become Destiny 2's first social space, teeming with fellow Guardians and vendors dispensing quests and wares. But for now, it's a small settlement populated by other humans, some of whom are warriors who've lived there all their lives and never been blessed by the Traveller's light. Among them is Soraya Hawthorne, a handy sniper with a fine line in withering sarcasm. She alerts you to a nearby shard of light that fell from the Traveller during the attack. Others have noticed as well, of course, but once you've seen them off, you're soon running around with a new set of powers, able to throw caution to the wind, safe in the knowledge that if all goes wrong, you'll simply be brought back to life. We're back, your ghost companion swoons, let's spread the love. And finally, they go on to tell us that there are over 80 missions and activities within Destiny 2, each being substantial in length, challenge, story, and reward, which hopefully gives us a lot more PvE content this time around, which all seems really encouraging to me. Sounds like Bungie really have a handle on what they're doing here for Destiny 2 and what they want to achieve. Looking forward to September the 6th. So that's all the best bits I've pulled from the article. It's well worth a read. I'd recommend picking it up. If you like this video, guys, please give it a like rating and subscribe so you don't miss any future content, and I will see you guys again soon.